Good afternoon, Coolest Coast. It's time for Coffee on the Coast. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Coffee on the Coast Book Banter. Laura Schreiner, Manitowoc Public Librarian, is with us. We're going to talk about some book recommendations. Laura, I'm so happy to see you. I
I'm,
love these days.
I'm happy to see you. I look forward to this every month. Yes.
And I'm excited because you have selections today that I am not aware of. I haven't read them, I've never
Really?
heard anything about them. So
Okay.
I'm super excited to learn more.
All right.
Um, and I know we're going to talk about a book first that you have kind of a quote or a statement about.
Yeah.
Do you want to lead with that or do you want to talk about the book first?
It's up to you. It's kind of an inspirational little thing that the author said about people in certain lines of work that I think is cool. And
Ooh,
uplifting.
let's
Yeah.
start with that. I love inspiration.
Okay. So this is David Baldacci, Calamity of Souls. I have never read David Baldacci, which is a really, really silly thing on my part. People love him. He writes great suspense, mystery, super strong writer. He's been around forever, and I've never read a single thing by him, which
Me
is
neither.
my mistake, right? So I started with this one, and again, I have to thank a book group. A book group made me aware of this one. It is phenomenal. So it's Calamity of Souls. I copied the dedication page, which says, "To librarians and teachers, the shining stars of my universe." Now, I'm not trying to lump myself in there, but I have a big, big love for teachers and what they bring. And if you want to put a librarian or a library person in there, sure, we'll support that. But teachers to me are like way up here. Teachers, nurses, the helpers, those people. Library workers, yeah, that's great. But the fact that he singled
Honestly,
out,
librarians are often the heroes in a lot of stories.
there are some times and more where you've seen some courageous things that people are doing that maybe never sought to do, never set out to do, but it happens. So this Calamity of Souls is not his most recent, it's his second most recent. He's written oodles and oodles of things. He wrote it over a decade. He started writing it a good 10 years before he finished it. He wrote it by hand in a journal. He'd set it aside to do something else, but something kept bringing him back to this one. So it's set in one of my favorite times, 1968, which I think is, my goodness, what a year in this country. So many things happening, such seminal moments in American history, world history, debatably. So this is set in Southern Virginia. There is a racially charged murder case. A black and a white lawyer get together to defend a really wrongfully accused African American defendant. Now, they don't know who did the thing, but they know he didn't do it. And of course, they don't have to prove who did it. They just have to prove he didn't.
Mm.
And it's a really, really unfair system. The deck is so stacked against them. We've got a young white lawyer named Jack Lee who's never done anything to defend or push back against racism. All of a sudden, he decides to represent this young man, Jerome Washington, who's charged with a really gruesome killing of an elderly, wealthy white couple for whom he works. And he looks circumstantially very guilty. Like there's nobody else. He finds them. He's in there covered in their blood because he picked them up when he found them, things like that. So, and there's nobody else who saw anyone else. Oh, it's got to be him, right? He's killing him for the money or whatever. And he's, as a reader that he didn't do it, but you have no idea who did. So Jack Lee is going to defend him. He realizes he's out of his league. He is offered help from a young black civil rights lawyer from Chicago named Desiree Du Bois. She's been devoted her whole life to justice and equality and things like that. But they have to learn to work together, and they better learn to do it because Jerome Washington's life is in their hands. They're working against the top criminal prosecutor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is more than a case of murder. It's about civil rights. It's where there's been some wins for the civil rights movement, but there's certain people that don't want that to become a thing. So this is a really, really critical case, and it's a death row case. If he's found guilty, he's going to death row. And they
Oh,
know he didn't do it. And then, so Jerome's wife gets drawn into it. She's got her own thing going on. She ends up looking like an accessory. I really don't want to give anything away at all, but it's a very long book. So if you look at it, you're like, oh my goodness. But I promise you, it goes really, really, really quickly. It's really heroic, what these folks do. And I felt for them. I felt very deeply for everybody involved because the deck was, again, so stacked against them. It looked like they did not have a chance. So these two very disparate people have to get together to try to get a fair trial and some justice for this really an unfortunate young man who's completely innocent, almost guileless, loved. He had no reason. Some people are trying to say he had reason, but from your perspective, again, as a reader, you know he had no reason. He loved these people. This was his job. This was his livelihood. Why would he have done that? But, I mean, you can massage facts to make it look a certain way. Good luck trying to find a jury that isn't biased, all kinds of things. Again, 1968, Southern Virginia. The world looked different, but you know what? He did a great job, I think, of putting you in that world. Almost 60 years later, I felt like I was in that world. So it seemed kind of familiar, it seemed kind of foreign, but boy, he did a good job of putting you in this place with people you cared really deeply about. And you're so much rooting for this young man.
So were you satisfied with the resolution?
Yeah. Yeah. And as much as you could possibly be. There's some losses that can't be reclaimed. Certainly this couple that died, and there's some other things that happened that couldn't be undone, but as much as possible.
Okay.
I'm going to be reading a lot more of him, and trust me, there's a lot more of him to read. But this is a standalone. He writes series. He writes many series. He's got something called the Camel Club with lots of books in, lots of standalones, novellas. Great writer. I don't know how I've never read him before.
So Calamity of Souls is historic fiction. It's not a true story.
Historic fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, though, to be able to inhabit a moment of history like that, to really be able to turn it over and understand the different things happening.
Right. It's, like I said, I'm fascinated by this. I was a child. I think if I had been an adult, I'd have been very concerned for what the world was going to look like, because things were not going well in this country. Some things improved, some things not as quickly as we'd like, and some things haven't improved. But, we survived. We survived. But it must have looked at times like maybe survival, like everything was just burning, communities were burning and all sorts of awful assassinations, just horrible things happening. We prevailed. The justice eventually started to turn, but I'm not sure it completely has either. It's a very, very good book. It's a great book club read, I might add, too. And again, a book club made me aware of it. I was not aware of this book. I should have, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like a powerful story. Well, yay to book clubs, too, for exactly that reason.
Exactly. Boy, I learn about more books from book clubs. I mean, sometimes I suggest to them, a lot of times they suggest to me as we're gathering these books, I'm like, I want to read this book, or I want to listen to this book. I read this one. I listened to and read about half and half. It's a great read. It's hard to put down.
I think that's one of the reasons I love this conversation with you, Laura, is because, kind of like you said, book clubs introduce you to new books.
For sure.
This is such a great way to learn about other stories, new stories.
Right. Yeah, because certainly they read bestsellers. They're reading The Frozen River, they're reading Remarkably Bright Creatures, they're reading Correspondent. They're reading all the books you hear about. But boy, they show me some books. Goddess of Warsaw is another one that they showed that I was not aware of.
Let's talk about that one next.
We can if you like. Sure.
Unless you want, I wasn't sure if you were choosing the covers because they kind of matched, because this one seems a lot like, this one in color.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do. Yeah.
John Grisham is also a very prolific writer, right?
He is. Now, have you read John Grisham?
Not in a long time.
Right. I had read, but a while ago, I had read everything he had written up to a point. But then I kind of got away from him because I found other people. I've never not liked him. I've always thought he was wonderful. I love how he takes on social issues. I love how he kind of really, sometimes he indicts the criminal justice system and the legal profession. He certainly does. I shouldn't say sometimes, he often does. Being a lawyer himself, being a state legislator in Mississippi in the past, he's not right now, but very, very concerned with social justice and equality, and is able to kind of poke fun at things and see the irony in things.
And he really writes page turners too, right?
He does.
Just burning through the book so fast.
Yeah. They tend to be a lot of legal suspense. This is his first. They refer to this as his first whodunit, which I guess it is. And when I thought about it, because you don't know who did it. Most of the things.
Who did what? What happened?
Who did what? So the widow. The widow comes to him, comes to this small town lawyer named Simon Latch. He is also in Virginia, I believe. Yeah, if I'm correct, he's in Virginia. Another Virginia. What is going on with Virginia? We had the Commonwealth last time, right? What is with Virginia all of a sudden? I'm just realizing, my goodness. So this is a small-time lawyer. His practice is struggling. His marriage is kind of falling apart. He's not exactly thriving. So an elderly lady, widow Eleanor, comes to him and says, She implies and says right out, in fact, without much proof, without any proof basically, that she has a very, very large estate that she has no heirs to inherit. Coca-Cola stock, all kinds of really pricey stock her husband had collected and held on to. So she's implying that she is worth many, many millions of dollars. She had gone to a different lawyer in the same small town and didn't like the way he handled it because he had kind of written himself into the will a little bit. As she has no heirs, he was charging her a lot for his services. He was going to set up trusts of which he'd be the executor, all kinds of things. She didn't feel good about that. So she comes to this Simon, and he kind of wants to say that he's going to be different. He's going to look out for her, but he's kind of doing the same things. Honestly, he's kind of writing it. He's kind of slamming to her, this other lawyer, and saying, well, he's doing this, but I'm not going to do that. He is and he isn't. He's kind of looking out for himself, but he ends up liking this lady. He takes her for lunch. He's kind of looking out for her. She keeps stringing him along that there's all this money to be had in this estate, but he sees no proof of it. And every time he asks for proof, she doesn't produce it. She won't show him any statements. She won't show him anything really, but he's still, because to be honest, he's greedy. He sees a big paycheck. This is his opportunity. Well, she's in a car accident, which she causes. She ends up in the hospital, pretty seriously injured, but survivable. She dies. Well, she's taking a turn as things go. She's not recovering as soon as they'd like. So he ends up having to be her power of attorney, all sorts of things. He explains it to her. He gets the medical professionals on board. He's not doing anything wrong. She's aware. He's not fleecing her at that point or anything. Well, but they think she's going to recover. Well, she doesn't recover. She dies. So now, I don't know how much I should say, but it's not natural causes. And he becomes the suspect. It's poison. I can say this. It's poison. She eats some poisoned food, it turns out. But at first, let me backtrack a touch. When she dies, he is the person who is supposed to take care of her affairs. So he calls the funeral home. She'd want to be cremated, all this stuff. They're about to cremate her, and they get an anonymous phone call a reporter gets an anonymous phone call that it's not as it seems. Do not cremate that body. There's something else going on here. So then it goes from there. They find out she's been poisoned by thallium, which apparently is a powder that you can add to some food stuff. Who had opportunity, who had motive, who had all these things. He is the only suspect, and they stopped looking for suspects. And and again, as the reader, he didn't do it. He's a little shady, but he didn't do it. So now he's convicted. And while he's out on bail before he goes to prison, in the meantime, his marriage is falling apart. His kids are messes because he's a convicted murderer. It's his life has fallen apart. He's lost his practice. He has to find out who did it in order to clear his name. Eventually he does. But I mean, his desperation is like palpable. It's like, I can't go to jail. I didn't do this. I have only a limited amount of time until I'm sentenced, and I have to find out because the police aren't looking anymore.
Okay, and then what about like her estate? Was that all real, or does he find out that that's a sham?
There had been some poor investments made, let's put it that way, by her husband. So there had been a lot of money at one point, but it was gone. Yeah. She had stepsons who she was not close with, but they wanted to be in the will. She did not want that. He made sure that didn't happen. So one or both of those gentlemen looks like a suspect, or him. Well, it wasn't them, so it has to be him because he stood to gain a lot. But in the end, he wouldn't have anyway because there was really nothing much there. Not a lot. I mean, there was maybe a couple $100,000, not multiple millions. So, yeah, I mean, you end up liking this Simon, feeling bad for him. And then you kind of think, well, that could happen to me. I mean, sometimes you put yourself in these situations like you might find yourself on the wrong end of some wrongful conviction. And actually, Calamity of Souls is kind of like that. And so is The Widow. They've got that in common. By two really skillful writers kind of writing about wrongful convictions at different times, both in Virginia. What is up with Virginia? Something's not right there.
Especially with their wrongful convictions.
They've got to work on this. I don't think this is good. I don't think I'm going there because they might convict me of something. I don't know. I don't travel much, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I mean, it's like there's a common theme there, and I didn't even see that until we started talking about this because that was not intentional. Yeah.
Okay, well, what about Ohio? Would you go to Ohio? And I'm only assuming, so this one is Buckeye. I'm only assuming it's about Ohio. Because
it is. It's set in a small town called Bonhomie, Bonhomie. I listened to it. I wouldn't even know how to pronounce that. So it starts in Bonhomie, Ohio during World War II. So there's two couples involved. One of them, the gentleman in one of the couples, wants to go into World War II, but one leg is shorter than the other. He can't be drafted. So he feels bad about that. He ends up marrying a hometown girl who is a seer, who's got maybe debatably some skills, seances and things like that. He's not really comfortable with that. He ends up crossing paths with the woman from another couple who lives in this town. Again, I have to be a little careful what I say, but let's put it this way. The two couples' lives end up intertwined in ways you couldn't really have foreseen at the start. So it starts, like I said, in 1940s, comes up through Vietnam era. Small town. It's told at various times from the perspective of each of the four. There's Cal and Becky. She's the seer. He's the he ends up running his father-in-law's hardware store because he can't go to military service, and he's embarrassed that he can't be in the military and so on and so forth. He crosses paths in the hardware store with Margaret, who's married to Felix, who is away fighting. Margaret and Felix have a bunch of secrets, a lot of secrets. Just saying.
Anything spicy?
I mean, there's a little spice there. Yeah, there's some. It's a lot more alluded to spice. It's not flat out spice, but there's definitely that is the origin of some of the secrets, of course. Yeah, and it's really, really well done. This was in a lot of book clubs and a lot of nationwide surveys. This one came in as the top book of 2025.
Oh,
it's pretty good. It's quite good. I don't know if it was my favorite book of 2025, but it would be probably in the top 5 or 6. I listened to this one. It was really well done. But now you see the names there: Ann Patchett, Anna Napolitano, recommended. These are some people with some chops. So
yeah.
these are,
and what does it say? A glorious sweep of a novel.
It is, because it covers so many eras and a small town, a small Midwestern town, which a lot of us could probably relate to. The World War II thing. You've got the glorious, the happy, good feeling times of that era. After we won the war, of course, we won the war, whatever that means. Winning is relative, but there were good feelings in this country. And then it takes you through Vietnam, where there weren't so many good feelings. Mm-hmm. A lot of dilemmas, a lot of family stories there. There's some gender-ish kind of issues. There's some love affairs that go wrong. But you know what? You like all of these people. You kind of see maybe some poor decisions were made. Sure, we all make poor decisions, but they're likable people. You can understand them. You care about them. Again, there's that theme of you care about these people. You don't have to like everything they do. Maybe it's not what you would do, but you care deeply what happens to them. There's a kind of a neat quote out of this one that says, "The things that we love tell us what we are."
Ooh.
Kind of defines you, right?
Right. Right.
So I certainly did not always like what one of the characters did. Again, there's some really poor parenting going on here. And I think we talked about that last time. I just don't like that kind of negligent parenting where you just abandon. Like, that is not really okay with me. Margaret, the person in question, she was found and she was abandoned and found in a basket on the steps of an orphanage and raised by someone that she kind of considered an aunt, of surrogate mother kind of thing, but she was the orphanage owner. So she really doesn't quite get family attachments. So she struggles with that. And then she's not in turn the best mother, to be honest. But and there are some folks who you care about there's a person who dies in Vietnam, and it's terribly sad. It's kind of gut-wrenching. But I don't know. There's some optimism, there's disillusionment, there's family secrets, there's, I don't know, Midwestern life. I don't know, something for everybody, I think. And it's very well written.
And you listened to this one?
I did listen to this one, yeah.
Is it well performed?
I think so, yeah. As you know, it's a little different experience listening to reading. They're a little different, but I go, like I said, I go about half and half read, half. But I don't know. I love these characters. I understood every single one of them. I felt for every single one of them. And I love the time frame, those 40-ish years of American history, 30 to 40 years. Such an important time. Yeah.
And I think that's so important to be able to care about the characters.
Yeah. Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah.
You don't even have to
stop reading books if you just.
Exactly. You don't even have to love them, but I have to feel at least something for them, even if it's a little bit of anger, even if, like, you enrage me, you're so silly, but at least I care in some way. Not that I admire them, But there's other ways to care without it being admiration. To just say, "Wow, are you that clueless? You hurt other people. What's wrong with you? You don't, you know." But even then, they have a good side. Everyone's got both of those things, good and bad, and we're complicated.
Okay, so listening to the audiobook, how many hours would you say this was? And the reason I ask is
Yeah.
I recently put a hold on a book and it said
Mhm.
it's 31 hours.
What?
And I was like, that's incredible. I'm
Oh,
not sure I can dedicate 31 hours to a book.
do you know what book? Do you remember what book that was? That's a
The,
long book.
the Hallmarked Man?
Okay, I don't even know that. I don't know that book. Okay, okay. 30. No, this is nothing like that. This
I
is
didn't
maybe.
end up I didn't end up
Uh,
getting it because I was like,
yeah.
that's
I don't know that I've ever gone more than 14 or 15 hours total. I don't think I've listened to anything for longer than that. I think this was in that 14-ish hour. Yeah, I can't do much more than that.
okay.
This one I did end up, I think, getting moved to the front of the line in Libby because we bought more copies for local patrons, and then that moves you to the top of that hold line. Otherwise, I was way, way, way far down on this holds list on Libby,
Oh,
but our wonderful collections librarian, Lisa Pike, bought more copies dedicated just to Manitowoc patrons. So if anyone is interested in listening on Libby, the line might not be as long as you might think. You might actually get it reasonably fast listening to it. If
ooh,
you hang in there for a good several weeks, you might be able to get it. Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I'm going to put this one on my Libby list for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty
Okay,
good.
so that is Ohio. Then tell us about the Goddess of Warsaw.
Goddess of Warsaw is by, again, this is something a book group pointed out to me. She is a very complicated lady. She's, as you can see there, she is a very beautiful blonde, I believe blue-eyed, although I don't know if it looks like that lady. Um, Living in the Warsaw Ghetto. She is a Jew. She doesn't appear to be a Jewess, though, and that is her salvation and her downfall, basically. Warsaw Ghetto during World War II. She's kind of a double agent. She is an actress, very famous actress in the Polish society sort of things at that time. But she is also a Jew. And that is also that's a super dangerous thing and place to be. So um, she very complicated. Again, super complicated lady. She plays a lot of roles really well. She can be really vicious. She has a long memory if she's been wronged. She ends up coming to this country, to the United States eventually, under an assumed identity. She's believed to have died over there because they had to let her be thought to be dead. And then she starts a whole new life. Her name was Bina Blonsky there. And then her name here, what is her name? I read this a while ago. What is her name? But she's not Bina Blonsky. She gets to this country. She's vastly different. You realize she goes back and is telling her life story to a biographer, because no one in this country is aware who she was, obviously, over there, because that person died. She becomes this really well-known, very powerful actress, and she's got some revenge to exact on people. Yeah, her name is, I had forgotten her name. Her name is Lena Browning. She becomes Lena Browning in this country, but she was Bina Blonsky. And her life in the Warsaw Ghetto was very rich and very real, and then it's bam, gone. And again, it makes you think, if you are the wrong person in the wrong place, everything can be taken from you.
Right, right.
And so you feel for her, but she's a survivor. At the end of the day, she is a survivor, and she's capable, frankly, of some really cruel things herself in the name of revenge. She's not the nicest lady. She's not the shrinking violet, but then again, she wouldn't have made it. She
Right.
wouldn't have survived if she had been. So this one to me kind of shows you in a very vivid way what people are capable of when they need to survive. And sometimes that's not pretty. And she certainly didn't always like what she was doing, but she had this drive to avenge people, number one. Maybe she just wanted to live to avenge people. I guess maybe that's not the right motivation in some cases, but then again, maybe it is.
Was it other people that had also come to the United States, or was she avenging people
This
still back in the old country?
she's well, what I had not realized is that, and I'm sure this is true, that this country, this government, our government, pardoned some people who had been known Nazis because they had skills we wanted. I don't think I knew that. If I did, I forgot that I knew that.
I
So
think I knew that. I mean, isn't that the
yeah,
case with like Oppenheimer or people that were working on the Manhattan Project?
things like that. So they had skills we needed, so we let them assume a new identity. But she knows who they are from when they were awful, awful people, and she finds ways to. I'm not going to say a whole lot, but there's one instance where some man is just out canoeing. He's on vacation with his family. He's out canoeing, and he literally never knew what hit him. I'll tell you that. But she knew who he was way back then.
Oh,
And she happens to be this beautiful woman, so she can cozy up to lots of people, and she looks like this Hollywood star. But people didn't know her origins, so these people who had been Nazi collaborators, or worse, who are now here and assumed new identities, she knows, and she's not letting it go.
okay. This storyline kind of reminds me loosely of another book. And what was it called? It's a woman, and she was like an assassin
Oh,
in like Slovenia, like in the
Codename Hélène. Codename Hélène is something like this. The assassin.
and so she comes, and then she's working as like a librarian, and she's very,
The Quiet Librarian, the Ellen
yes.
Espins.
Oh,
Yes.
that's it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
In a
yes.
different era. Yes. In a different era.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Yep. It's very similar. These strong, smart women who become a new person, and they're trying to make some peace. I guess make some sort of peace too. I guess because they can't do anything to bring that person back, but they're doing what they can to like avenge their honor
Yeah.
and be sure that person can't do it anything further to other people. Save other people pain. I guess that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. It does. You know what? It does. That's a great comparison. It is. It is somewhat like the Quiet Librarian. Yep.
Cool. If you want to mention to Margot, I would take this one in an upcoming delivery box if it
I
becomes
can do that. I
available.
sure can tell her that. You bet. You bet. Sure. It's very, very good. It is not a cozy World War II. There are some of the more cozy World War II. Like they traded recipes. With their rationing. Rationed items and nicey, more feel good. This is not one of those. But boy, it's important to know some of these things. Again, I was so silly to be shocked that this country welcomed Nazis because they were smart or they had a skill set. I don't know. I mean, it seems so wrong.
It's infuriating to
It's
know that
infuriating.
justice isn't exacted
It is
equally,
not.
right?
Not equally. Depends who you are. Depends what you know. Depends what your skills are. You're good. Different people are not. They're not treated the same. We know that. Another case of that. And she's not letting it happen. No.
So keep reading, stay smart. It can save your life, is what we're saying,
That's
right?
yeah. You know what? It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Right. Right. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
What about the last recommendation you have for us today is called The Lost and the Found, a true story of
Yes.
homelessness, found family, and second chances.
So I kind of stumbled across this one. I am pretty interested in the issues of homelessness and how some how inequalities and things like that. So this gentleman is now retired, but he wrote for over 30 years for the San Francisco Chronicle. He's been nominated for Pulitzers. He has been homeless. He embedded himself with the homeless. It's very empathetic story about how people get where they are. There's really no judgment. He lived next to these people. He followed two individuals as they tried to break away from it. He met them where they settled back down. There's two people he follows, a man and a woman who arrived. They ended up living on this island, like a traffic island in San Francisco. The community kind of formed there, and they're in kind of like a business area. So it's not residential, so people aren't as upset, but they're very visible. And they struggle. There's a lot of people using drugs and in that community, and they're not very pretty to look at. They scare people, but again, you're at a stoplight, and then the light turns green, and you go on, and you just know that there's this bunch of people over there, and they've got their shopping carts and their tents and all of that stuff, and you're like, oh, that's too bad, or that's icky, get them out of here. Someone should do something. He takes the time to get to know them and listen to them and find out the stories, and he follows two of them to the different parts of the world, because eventually, in the case of the two individuals he really, really gets close with, their families have been looking for them, and they weren't completely lost. And he acknowledges there are people that are completely lost. There are many people he talks about who are found after an overdose, who don't survive. These two people survive. These two people get out. And he goes to meet them when they're back with their families of birth and things like that. But it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, this is not without some hiccups. He's very caring. He's a beautiful writer. And again, he makes you care. You don't judge. You don't. This could be almost anybody. If one or two things go wrong, you go down a path, and you could be this person. Somebody talks about found family and second chances. I think that's the recurring theme there. Also, some loving biological families that never gave up on finding these folks. He has some solutions, like supportive housing is what works. You can't just take a person off the street and say, here's an apartment, you should live here. They don't have the skills. They don't know how to be this person. You have to, he posits that you need to put them in a community with, say, an on-site social worker, some people who can teach them about budgeting and cooking and all sorts of things that they don't know. You can't, because you're gonna fail if you just put them in a setting and say you're on your own. That's not going to work.
Right.
It's a really, 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 really good. I can't say that enough. I hate to say it. It reads kind of like fiction. It's like, I hate to say it because it's somebody's life and it's not fiction, but it makes you understand. It makes you care. He just writes beautifully, and he just makes you think that there are solutions. There are things that can work. It's a large scale problem. It's small scale solutions. It's very personal. You're not going to do this overnight, but I think he gives you hope that this can happen. And if it can, the whole home prices have skyrocketed. Apartments are out of reach for people. It's a money thing. Can we solve it? We can, but you're talking, I don't want to make this political, but you're talking policies, and you're talking all sorts of things, housing, districting and things that would have to change. And a lot of people don't necessarily want it in their backyard. And I think we all understand that could be a thing. Because again, some of these folks are hard to like. It's hard to be sympathetic to some of them. To some of them, it's not. They're great. You just think if they would get one break, this could change. They could change their lives. And that break looks different for different people. It doesn't look the same for everybody,
Well, I think even locally, there is a movement, right, to try to address this important issue.
Exactly.
And I think what you said is really important, that the book points out that kind of wrap around
Exactly.
care, right? It's not
Exactly.
just here's a place,
No.
but how to live in that
Yeah.
place, how to be a member of society and
Right.
support yourself, right?
Yeah.
How to get mental health care, all of that. So do you think that this read is even more important than we might think, like that people
Yeah.
might want to read it for some of those
I do.
solutions that they have?
I have mentioned this to one or two book groups that I work with, who I know are very much about social causes and justice, and we can do better and we can be better. And at some point they may want to pick it up, because I think it's very discussable. These are things that could be implemented almost anywhere, piecemeal, not overnight, but with a plan. You can get some of these folks to a better place. And it is mental health, and it is addictions, and it's all kinds of things, but it's a lot of wraparound care, supportive wraparound care. It's a very, very well done book. It's not super long. It really isn't very long. There's some photos, so you see these are real people he's talking with. Tyson's a real person. Barbara's a real person. This is who they were before they fell from grace, if you will. But they're likable. They're good people. They want to help. You know what? The interesting thing is they want to help others too. No matter how bad their lot in life, they're looking out for somebody else.
Wow.
I think that's powerful.
These are all great reads that you've recommended. I think this one could be so powerfully important. I'm
Yeah.
glad you've put it on our radar.
Well, girl, thank you. I didn't want to make it, charged in any way. Like, I don't want to make a statement or something, but I think it is worthy of some sort of statement, honestly. Yeah.
Okay, The Lost and the Found by Kevin Fagan, David Balducci's A Calamity of Souls, The Goddess of Warsaw by Lisa Barr, The Widow by John Grisham, and Buckeye by Patrick Ryan are this month's recommendations. Laura, thank you so much for being my guest and having this awesome book
Thank you.
conversation with me.
Thank you so much, Tina. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to it all the time, every day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Book Banter. My guest, the amazing Laura Schreiner from Manitowoc Public Library. I'm your host, Tina Prigge, for this episode of Coffee on the Coast. We'll see you next time, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.